Today, I want to speak on the topic, the theology of sexuality. Now, I think many of us have heard a lot, and many in the MMin class has even heard a whole webinar on the LGBT issue. But I still feel that after all this, all that we've heard or we read, we're still somewhat confused. Brain is cluttered with a lot of information. And also, I just feel that we need to be clearer on this and more convinced on this issue. Now, homosexuality, male or female, has been a problem since the fall of man. It's nothing new. Since the fall of man, everything has been corrupted, perverted, and imperfection has come in every way. Now, however, up till about the 1960s, men throughout the world, whether religious or non-religious, almost every culture has seen homosexuality as a deviation. Some cultures accept it more, some condemn it more, but it was never accepted as the norm. If it was, then there would have been no further progress of that culture because reproduction would have stopped and the culture would have ended because homosexuals don't produce babies, right? So obviously, nature itself would have taken care of such a practice. Now, however, in 1969, it's a common year, it was accepted there was a turning point in the viewing of homosexuality. And that turning point was when people in New York began to demand that their rights as homosexuals. Now, people have been practicing homosexuality, usually more quietly. Some groups accepted them as deviants and just ignored them. But in 1969, they decided that they didn't want to be tolerated, accepted, but they wanted to have their rights. And so the movement began, I would say, about that time. And it's not a very long time ago, let's say 1970, right? Just about 50 years ago. In human history, it's a very short period of time. But I must say that they have done a great job. These activists, these people fighting for their rights, have done an amazing job from being at best tolerated, at worst persecuted, to today getting their rightful place, not only in secular society, but demanding their place in the last bastion against them, Christianity. They're demanding their space in Christianity. In other words, they've come a long way in 50 years from tolerance to now going to be religiously. They expect to be even the last bastion will collapse Christianity and give them their rightful, inverted commas, space as part of this last bastion against them, right? Now, have they succeeded? Let me just give you a little bit of figures to show you that they've done a very good job. Now, a survey was done in 1985, mostly among Americans, right? And that survey said that 89% of the people surveyed, almost 90%, all right? Let's just take it 90%, said they would be sad if they discovered that that a child of theirs was a homosexual. Homo means either male homosexual or female homosexual, right? They just like their own sex, same sex. Now, a resurvey was done, and about 15 years after that, in 2015, all right, that is 1985 to 2015, that is 30 years later. And now, instead of 90% saying they'll be sad, only 39%. So in other words, from 90%, they take a rough figure, it dropped to 40% said they would be sad if they discovered one their child is a homosexual. So the figures drop from 90 to 40. Oh, that's quite a significant drop in a mere 30 years, right? Now let's take another survey. You must remember for 2000, from the time of Adam until this time, it was never accepted, right? But now it's okay for a large number of people. Only 40% would be sad. The other 60 say, well, it's okay. One of my children is a homosexual. Another survey done in 2001, again, largely among Americans because they are good people, they're experts in surveys. 1/3 was opposed to same-sex marriage, right? 1/3 of people were opposed to it. I'm sorry, 1/3 supported same-sex marriage in 2001, right? 20 years later, 2/3 supported same-sex marriage. It doubled. Okay, so we see that it's quite effective, their campaign for acceptance, right? Now, today, 32 countries legalize same-sex marriage. 32 countries. Up to the year 2000, no countries legalized same-sex marriage. Can you imagine from history, from Adam, who was how many thousand years ago, until the year 2000, just 20 years ago, not a single country legalized same-sex marriage. In the last 20 years, 32 countries have already legalized same-sex marriage. Thankfully, in Asia, no real country has legalized it. If you call Taiwan a country, Taiwan has legalized it. But strictly speaking, Taiwan is, I don't know, the status as a country, right? Now, India is considering legalizing same-sex marriage. Well, that's a major country. India is going to be the most largest population in the world, may legalize same-sex marriage in due time. Thailand is also considering legalizing same-sex marriage. Now, humanly speaking, if you know religion, it's not that surprising because Hinduism has never taken a very strong stand. There's so many gods in Hinduism. There are hundreds of millions of gods, all right? And literally, how do you take a strict stand? Buddhism has always taken a very passive stand towards everything. So Thailand's Buddhist, India is basically Hindu, and so who knows what's going to happen. So you say, well, what do you expect? Hindus, Buddhists, but let's look at the Christian world, right? Many of the large churches in America have already accepted that sex between same sexes is not a sin anymore. For example, you have the United Churches in America, and United this, United that, and they accept it. The Presbyterian Church in USA, not all the this particular group, Presbyterian Church in USA, accepts that sex between the same sexes is not an issue. It's not a sin. Episcopal Church, same. The Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, same. Almost all the major churches in Western Europe, what you and I would commonly call Europe, accept that it's no more a sin. Anglican Church, large numbers. You even have bishops who are professed homosexuals. Okay. Now you say, well, that's the degeneration of the church in the West. Well, it's creeping into Asia, dear Asians, right? UCCP doesn't take any strong stand now. Philippines, UCCP, United Churches, Christian Churches of the Philippines. The Anglican Church of Korea doesn't take any strong stand against this, same-sex. Church of South India, very major church. I've been there before. They don't take a strong stand. Evangelical Church of India doesn't take a strong stand. Aglipayan, in the Philippines, it's an Protestant or Independent Church of the Philippines, doesn't take a strong stand. In other words, it's coming, dear. All Asians, get ready. What has the walls that have fallen down all over Europe, the governments that have fallen to this, it's just a matter of time. All right. So in this short span of time from the start of the movement, I would say, in 1969, you want to take that down as a date, the turning point in history, so to speak, as far as the theology of sexuality is concerned, has now been attacked, all right, in a very strong way. We are like the last fortress left that will hopefully hold out until the Lord comes, all right? Now, how has all this become possible? How have we lost so much ground, and how have these people promoting, all right, this sexuality, that homosexuality is part and parcel, a normal part and parcel of human life, and should be part and parcel of the church? How has this come about? Let's call it activism, all right? The activist very wisely, like Satan, does everything very strategically and silently. He does it in a very subtle way that you don't realize. Just like Satan works among us without us even being aware. But hopefully, we will not be that unaware at the end of this lesson. He works first by telling us, tolerate us. Tolerate us. It starts that way. The activists don't come in and say, we demand rights to have same-sex marriage. We demand rights to have bishops who are, say, who are homosexuals. No, they just say, please be kind people and tolerate us. They're not asking too much, right? So they come in like little wolves in sheep's clothing. And then they use what they call human rights. Christians should be kind to other humans. We're all made in the image of God, and we should have human rights. Please, as Christians, don't discriminate. Please, Christians, don't. You used to do slavery as Christians, used to be racially prejudiced. Please don't discriminate against minorities, against the oppressed. And we are oppressed. We are a minority. Have mercy on us. Well, that would work in most cases to the average Christian. Oh my God, let's not be too hard on them. Let's not be too strong on them. So they play on our kindness, so to speak, and that's a wise tactic, right? And so from that, they slowly move their way, right? And start to move through various grassroots movements, right? It's very gentle. They don't look very big. There are a few people in the beginning. Grassroots, you don't really see it. It's not loudspeaker type, right? And this is what they will usually do, They will start to work on our sympathies, and then they attack a few areas, all right? Of course, funding is very important, so they do get funding from groups. You may not be aware, there's an international lesbian gay association. It's called ILGA, ILGA, International Lesbian Gay Association, which was founded in 1978. Of course, there are many other organizations, but this one's international. It claims to have about 1,800 over organizations under this massive umbrella. It's a big group. And they claim these 1,800 over grassroots or national organizations, which are their members, come from 169 countries, almost say 170 countries. Well, the whole world is only about 190 something countries, right? So literally every major, some countries are so tiny in the middle of nowhere, they're just a sovereign state, in fact, but most of you don't even know they exist. But let's just say every real country that we know of, there is a grassroots movement, and they all come under this ILGA, all right? And they get funding, these grassroots organizations. The number one thing is you must be funded. And once they get funded, they start to target a few areas, right? Media is number one. They present themselves that homosexuals are nice people, they're not bad people. And it's using celebrities who have that inclination to same-sex attraction and showing them as good people with just different affections from us. Why are you discriminating? Why are you attacking me? All right. So they use media to soften the image, use media to break down the stereotypes that we've always had, which is culture has always been fairly understand there's a man, there's a woman in the home, but slowly media would show that, it's not necessary you should have a father and mother. It could be two men could have kids, stuff like that. And then it just keeps coming in on the media. So they play with the media. They would then try to work on the legal system that, please don't discriminate. Then they work so that laws will be changed a little bit. In Singapore, recently, we had some laws changed that used to criminalize same-sex acts, acts between people of the same sex were criminalized. Now it's no more illegal, all right? They're not criminalized. And then they start to work on religious leaders, all right? There are always some religious leaders who maybe not so strong on this stand, start working on those religious leaders. They work in companies that, companies should not discriminate against minorities. Racial minorities should be treated. Women should be treated equal as men. LGBT also should be treated equal as the rest. You see, so it just sort of blends in very, very easily. Okay, so, and then now they even start to enter schools in America where textbooks cannot use certain pronouns, you don't project the family as the father, mother, children family. It could be mother, mother, father, father, whatever, all right? And so slowly they start working in all these different, shall we say, parts of society. And they have an ally. The ally is called postmodernism. Right? What does that mean? All right. Pre-modernism, let's just have the three categories. Pre-modernism, basically all along until the so-called scientific era, a few hundred years ago, men believed there were standards. God set standards. Every culture had their own gods who set certain standards, which was accepted. Nobody would question that. Sometimes it's through culture, tradition, religion, right? Some of it's good, some of it's bad, agree. And then the scientific age came where people say, no, we cannot just accept all these things. We will reason it out. God's given us a brain, so we could reason. In other words, God is no more the authority. This brain now is going to judge whether God is right or not, God or gods, right? And so the human brain was placed a bit higher. Okay, so that was what we call the modernist age. Today, we're not even in the modernist age, not even using logic anymore. We are in the post-modernist age. What does that mean? It now simply means that everybody has a personal choice to decide for himself. There's no more the collective logic of man, the collective scientific findings of man. There are certain things that is whether your brain, my brain, we agree. Now, no, I don't have to agree with anyone. The only one I need to agree with is myself. The right to make my choice. In simple words, if I believe this is right for me, and you don't tell me what to do. Wow. In other words, we're entering the world where truth is relative. There is no such thing as truth. We are not only postmodernists, we are post-truth, okay? Because if I say this is right, to me it's right. I don't care whether it's right or wrong. To me it is right. Shut up, all right? Wow, this is a perfect environment we are in. I mean, this to me, am I surprised? No, the last days, every man for himself, right? Now, so in other words, the boundaries have been blurred greatly. Now, in the past, we would call them gays, or we would call them homosexuals, same sex. Then later, there was gay, some male homosexual, lesbian. That's why we have that ILGA, which 1978, that was the right name, International Lesbian Gay Association. Doesn't sound very scary, so to speak. It's scary, but not that scary. Today, the term lesbian gay is not adequate. How do you describe this movement, this sexual revolution, so to speak? How do you describe it? I think the latest would be something like this. LGBTQIA plus. You say, help me. What are you talking about? LG, lesbian, gay. B, bisexual. T, transgender. Q, standing for either queer, doesn't fit anywhere, or questioning, uncertain where he fits in now, right? I'm still questioning my gender, for example. They say, I'm not sure whether I'm bisexual or whether I'm, whatever, homosexual, right? So Q. Then I, intersex. Someone has, male organs here, but female way of thinking or whatever. And then A, asexual. My goodness. A person who doesn't believe there's anything called sexual agenda. He's like neuter. He's like maybe amoeba, all right? Or he's like a chair. He's neuter, right? And then there's a plus at the end of it, which means whatever else is added later on. Can I repeat that? LGBTQIA plus. That's a very long title for any movement, but that's the name of the movement. And you thought that was bad. Eight alphabets with a numeral, with a plus at the end. You haven't heard the end of it all. Up to now, there are over 80 gender types that they have recognized. 80 gender types. Almost, if you were to study the sexuality movement of today, you have to be pretty brainy. You have to be pretty up to date because it keeps moving. When I first read it, it was like 59. Then I heard it's 78. And now I heard it's 81 and still more coming. Depends. You can all kinds of blends. Some person likes animals, sex with animals, and sometimes he doesn't feel like he's want to have sex animals, he want to have sex with, whatever. Maybe it's a dog, a cat, whatever. And you just have to add new names to it because it's up to me what I want to have sex with. Why should I just have sex with another man? Can't I have sex with a piece of plastic, for example, or whatever? Oh my goodness. So there, add more and more. I was trying to look at the terminology, okay? So you look at the terms like a dictionary of this 81 types, okay? It starts off with agender. Got the A and the word gender, right? This means that this person doesn't fit with he doesn't identify with any gender, okay? Then the next one is alia gender, A-L-I-A gender. Sorry, I'm just confusing you because I intend to confuse you, right? And it means he doesn't fit into any existing one of the 81 categories now. He's still debating whether to form a new one later on. And for you and me, we are cisgenders, C-I-S gender. In other words, we agree with the gender we were assigned to at birth. For example, my birth cert said I'm a male. I agree to that. I'm a cisgender. Now, in the past, I was just considered normal. Now there's a term to it. I'm a cisgender, C-I-S. In other words, I agree to the gender was assigned to me when I was a little baby. They saw that I had a male organ and they said, male baby. All right? Now, in the past, it was as simple as that. You were male or a female. And I believe God created that quite clear that there's almost no confusion except in very unusual circumstances. Sometimes there is a slight confusion, one in tens of thousands of babies. Like, as I said, after the fall, nothing is perfect. No babies even form perfect physically, right? There are deformities, and that's accepted. It's accepted. But those were exceptions. Today, if I'm a cisgender, they might consider me as just one of the many 81 normals and counting, all right? So I hope I didn't confuse you, but in a sense, I intended to confuse you, to tell you how confusing this simplicity of the male and female has become now. Sexuality is a very confusing issue. Now, what's the difference between sex and gender? Now, in our time, sex and gender are the same. What's your sex? What's your gender is the same. Today, what's your sex probably relates more to your biology. You have a male organ. If I would check your DNA, it'll probably be a male DNA. If I were to check your hormones in your bloodstream, you have more male hormones, testosterone, and so on. Now, gender has got nothing to do with this. Gender is what I identify with. It's a personal choice. I can have a male organ and I can say, I'm a female. Huh? Yeah, I can. I have a right to choose that. My male organ doesn't define me. My obstetrician didn't define me. My birth cert cannot define me. The church cannot define me. I define myself. So my gender is what I identify with, my personal sense of what I am, so to speak. So that's called gender. Gender expression is another term, not only gender, gender expression. I may be a male. I think I'm a female, but I feel like dressing like a male. I'm expressing myself. So if you look at me and you say, hey, you're a male, man, you're wearing a pair of pants and a suit, you say, I'm not a male, I'm a female. Huh? In other words, please don't judge me by my looks. It's what I believe I am. I may express myself this way, but it doesn't mean I am like that. Okay, confused? All right. So that's called gender expression. So you see a lot of people in the models today, movie stars, the man wears a skirt, and so on, and the woman, cuts her hair in such a way, walks in such a way, looks like a man, and she's, no, I'm a woman, or whatever, or I'm a bisexual, or whatever, all right? They can express themselves any way they want, and it doesn't matter, right? Simply put, the devil loves to confuse. God is a God of order. Satan is a God of confusion. Are you surprised? I'm not. In the last days, are you surprised that there's so much confusion just on a simple thing called your gender or your sex? Are you male or female? Now, don't ask me a stupid question like that. I'm one of the 81. All right? Oh my goodness. I'm confused. Good. That's what I want you to be. There's no right and wrong anymore. Get it? All right? This is the paradigm of the last days. Okay? So basically, the rainbow is there. Shall we say their flag? It can be all the colors sort of blended together. Just that their national flag, so to speak. Each nation has a flag to signify what they are, the lion, the whatever, the rising sun. This is the rainbow. We could be any color, anyone, and they're all equal and they're all good. All right? Now, even take a beautiful sign of God's covenant to become their symbol. Brilliant. I can only say they are brilliant, right? And I wish we were aware of their brilliance. Now, so I've talked so far about their advances, how they have moved very quickly from the last 50 years or so, and how they have now become entrenched into most societies, right, as an accepted part, and their so-called theology of sexuality, the belief of sexuality, has now become very much mainstream, accepted. In fact, if you didn't accept all this, that people can choose their gender, you are probably a bigot. You are probably an oppressor. All right? And nobody likes to be outdated, bigot, out of touch with the reality, oppressor. Oh, no Christian wants to be that, right? So we kind of taken on the back foot. Then the next part I'm going to talk about is what I would call the revisionist theology. They come up with a theology that has trying to revise the theology that you and I have accepted. Okay? And the tactic again is very simple. Okay? It is as old as the Garden of Eden. When the serpent said to Eve, has God really said this? All right? Same thing. Revisionist theology is, are you sure that's what God really said? Eve was going to say, yeah, I heard it. My Adam told me that very clearly. No. Did he really say that? Oh, shakes you up. All right? Devil's tactics are the same. Sow a doubt. Build a deception around it. Create disunity and then destruction. Simple. Nothing new. All right? So the doubt comes in. Did God really say that? Maybe the old translators were prejudiced, taking a old view and seeing everything from a anti-homosexual viewpoint. All right? Well, nobody likes to be prejudiced in this world today. Did they misinterpret because of their prejudices? Wow, makes me scared, right? Okay. Did they take it out of context? You know, those written thousands of years ago, that Bible? It's written at a time when, the culture around there was like that. But times have changed. So, number one, did God say? Number two, they try to portray the church as out of touch with development of time. In other words, they say, psychology says that there are certain people that think that way. Do you know that genes that show that certain people could be more inclined to same sex? And as a doctor, I agree, yeah, psychology does show. Because in a sinful state, I can say that psychologists have said that, you couldn't condemn a shoplifter because he's psychologically grown up in such a way that stealing was part of his background. I agree. Sinful world. Or some people say, you shouldn't condemn a gluttonous man because he has some hormone that likes to eat. I agree. It's true. Or even some gene that makes him want to eat and makes him grossly obese. I agree. It's true. The genes in man have been also destroyed somewhat, and our psychology and our society has been destroyed. But that doesn't give us a right to be a shoplifter because that's my background. It doesn't give me a right to be a glutton because I have a greedy streak or a sweet tooth. Just because I'm built that way, maybe I'm built handsome, doesn't mean I have to seduce women. No. We are not creatures controlled by what we are. We have a will. That makes us the difference between a human and an animal. With this sacred thing called a will, that though I like to eat, I do. I have a sweet tooth. I do not take sweet stuff because I have a will to. Besides a sweet tooth, I have a will given by God. And I'm not controlled by my tooth. As a human, I'm controlled by this sacred thing God has given me. And I should do my best. Right? So they play with all this psychology, genes, which is true. You can't argue with that. Not all of us are built the same way, but we all are expected to live a right way. Not the way we just feel comfortable to go with our inclinations, right? Otherwise, it'd be terrible. You go before a judge, I murdered her because, I'm a violent guy. That's my DNA. I've got certain things in my blood that makes me, I've got certain anger management because of my psychology in my past. Forgive me, man. Huh? Are you okay? Are you okay? You're supposed to control yourself. This is society, my friend. All right. This is not the land of beasts where we go by our instincts, right? So that's number one, right? So they can play all this revisionist stuff, right? Then they begin to play like you see Genesis said God made man and woman. In the beginning, God created man and then God created woman. In the beginning. But they didn't say that all the time God would do that. God can continue to create more different genders if he wants to. Or they play that kind of game with you, right? And maybe one or two verses may be useful for you. Okay, let's look at this one. When Jesus was confronted, what's Jesus' view about male and female? Are there 81 genders now? Did he say God began by creating male and female, and now there are many more things God is creating along the way? All right, let's look at this. In Matthew 19, verse 3, the Pharisees came up to him and tested him by asking, is it lawful to divorce one's wife for any cause? He answered, have you not read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female? Not in the beginning, from the beginning. Right? So from the beginning, it's male and female, not in the beginning, right? And said, therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother, not his father and his father, or his mother and his mother, and hold fast to his wife, not to his male friend, male husband, or wife. And the two shall become one flesh. All right? So Jesus continues to say, since the beginning, it's as simple as that. There's a male and a female, right? And that constitutes a marriage, a father and a mother, a husband and a wife, right? So Jesus didn't say, well, that was in Eden, man. Now things have changed, right? Then, of course, they will use all kinds of stuff to say, Sodom and Gomorrah, there was not against homosexuality, there was against violence, and all that. If you read it carefully in Genesis 19, verse 18, when this man wanted to have sex with Lot, and the person there said, no, you can have my daughters. They didn't want the girls. They wanted the man. They wanted the man. The man wanted, and God condemned Sodom. Whatever. You don't need to know all their things. I think you know enough of the Bible. I don't need to emphasize it further. Maybe one more verse I'll give you just to show you. You see, they say many things in the Old Testament are no more valid in the New Testament, like God is against homosexuality in the Old Testament, not in the New Testament. Because many things in the Old Testament we don't follow now, right? In the Old Testament, for example, you cannot use clothing that is have mixed fabric in it. Wow, that sounds very... So now how come you wear clothes like the shirt I'm wearing is made of, cotton and whatever, So how come you say you can't do that? And how come now the Old Testament say you cannot wear clothes with mixed fabric? You're wearing what? PC, right? Now, whatever is said in the Old Testament, if it's not repeated in the New Testament, you have to be very careful, right? Like, I'm not told in the New Testament I can't wear this, right? But homosexuality is repeated in the New Testament. It was condemned in the Old. It's repeated, condemned in the New. And there are several texts for it, but I just give you Romans, because to me, Romans chapter 1, you should know reasonably well. I'm just giving you a few, and I hope you can do your own research. Go back to our webinar on homosexuality. That's a pretty good one on that. All right. And let's go to Romans chapter 1, and you can have a very nice read on it and convince yourself, right? In Romans chapter 1, verse 22, claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal men and birds and animals and creeping things. So there was a first picture of men trying to be smart. They instinctively know there's a God up there, but they want to make their own gods. They want to be smarter than that. Why one God? Let me make 81,000 gods, right? Or 1 million, create my own gods, right? So they claim to be wise, but they are fools. They exchange this glory of this immortal God to little images, right? Of animals, birds, etc. Verse 24, therefore, God gave them up in the lust of their heart to impurity, to dishonoring of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie, and worship and serve the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this reason, God gave them up to dishonorable passions, for their women exchanged natural relations for those that are contrary to nature, and men likewise gave up natural relations with women and were consumed with passion for one another, men committing shameless acts with men and receiving in themselves the due penalty for their error. So I hope you see here, it's two passages. One said, this man is so smart. He doesn't believe there's that one God up there who made heaven and the earth. He wants to make his own little versions of God. All right? So he's a kind of a man getting too smart for himself, wanting to do whatever he wants. Then he goes on to say, so God allows this idiot who wants to be so smart, let him be so smarter. So what does he do? Now he wants to give up that natural passion for the opposite sex, right? And see, he's smarter now. He says, why should I just have sex with a woman? I want to have sex with animals, man, whatever. Anything that comes crosses my path, right? And so God says, go ahead, do it. You want to make many gods? Can you want to make many sexual partners? Go ahead, all right? But you will receive the judgment, receiving in themselves. Verse 27, the due penalty for their error. All right. Now, I hope that you can just learn to use some of these verses. You don't need to go against everything they say because it's an endless thing. If you want to believe a lie, you will prove anything you like. I'm convinced of that. No point to argue with that. Just have one or two verses. You can use your common sense. You can just say, as far as I'm concerned, there's a male organ and there's a female organ. I think I can tell that the difference. I think I can tell the function of each of it. And it's quite a clear function. Like a nose, I know it's for, it's for breathing, not for talking. I can talk through my nose, but it's not terribly natural. I cannot be weird to do that. I can eat through my nose. There's no issue. It can be done. I could stuff, stuff up my nose. It's just not normal. So number one, I don't even need theology. I just need common sense. Number two, sex does reproduce babies. I don't know any other way. Sex between a male and a female. I'm sorry, I don't know any other way. And God has told us that we are to multiply. And I'm afraid I can't do that any other way. Right? Maybe you can say artificial insemination still. You need a woman to carry the fellow in the womb. All right? And so on and so on. All right. Now, then you want to use a theological argument. Jesus explained that there are two genders. Right? And that marriage is between two genders. Jesus, right? If you want to come into the Christian realm, I just explained Jesus said that. And then I need my Romans chapter to tell me, if you want to invent, it's not new. People invent idols. You want to invent your sexual partners? Invent new ones. Martians, avatars, whatever you want. It's up to you. But you pay the price later. Okay? That's all. I don't need to be too complicated. All right. So that's the revisionist theology they're trying to say. Did God really say? Hasn't science proven that we all have different bend towards this sex or that sex or whatever? Of course it has. I'm not stupid. All right. But it doesn't mean I can go and do what I like. All right. I like to steal, Who doesn't? Who doesn't like free stuff? All right. But it's wrong. Okay. Too simple, right? Now, having said that, please don't go overboard. There are foolish Christians who say, anti-homosexuals. Homosexuality is just another sin. All right? Don't attack homosexuals as if that was a venial, as the worst sin in the world. Pride is the worst sin, man. And many other sins. All sins will lead us to hell. But thankfully, the gospel says all repentance will lead us to trust in Christ. And whoever, whether you're homosexual or whatever, God will has an open door for you. God loves the homosexual as much as he loves me. God loves the Pharisee. God loves the wicked, the prostitute. God loves sinners. He doesn't love the sin. So don't say God hates homosexuals. That's nonsense. God hates the sin. Right? And having the same-sex attraction is not the same as the sex act. If I have a tendency to steal, doesn't mean I'm a sinner. I was just created. My psychology, my whole gene pool makeup in me makes me lazy and want to steal. That some people born lazy. That's true. But until I steal, it's not a sin. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Same-sex attraction is not a sin. Same-sex act is a sin. Wanting to lie. It's a tendency in all of us to want to lie to get out of a problem. It's not a sin until you lie. I have that sin all the time to get the easy way out. But by the grace of God, I try not to lie. Okay? So it's not the temptation, it's the falling. Jesus was tempted in every way like you and me. He was tempted, Hebrews says that. Is that a sin? No. Okay? So I hope you understand that. Please don't go around attacking homosexuals as if they are unique. They're just having a struggle. And if they can overcome that struggle, then you say, but Pastor, they also have rights. If I feel like stealing and I also have rights to steal, is that true? Is that true? If I, have a violent temper, and some people are very quick-tempered, that's the way they're built. Does it mean that I can kill somebody to vent my violent nature? No, it doesn't give me a right to. Right? So the right to do what you want is not a right. All right? The right is granted by God. So the point is this, all right? People who say mutually, I have that bent towards them. I have no attraction towards women. Then abstain. I have no attraction towards working. I like stealing. Abstain from stealing. Get it? What's new? All right? It doesn't mean when you have a desire, you have a right to do wrong. And if you're a believer, it's wrong. The same-sex act is wrong. The stealing from someone is wrong. The stabbing someone is wrong. I feel good when I do it because it makes me so angry. Feeling good is not my right. Doing right is my only right. All right? So please get it straight that when we deal with homosexuals, please don't see them as unique. There are many other people struggling with other struggles in their lives. It's just that there's no activist for shoplifting. There's no activist for murder, acts of passion to murder someone. There is no movement yet coming soon for gross gluttony. I just want to eat. Soon there will be. Because every man's right in his own eyes now. There's no more truth. There's no more right and wrong, according to the postmodernists. This is just a well-planned postmodernist attack on truth, the LGBT issue. All right? So I hope you understand this. What I'm talking about today is not necessarily going to be isolated to this, that we'll understand in the last days when every man is right in his own eyes and has rights to do whatever he believes he has rights to do whatever he wants. This is the world we're going to be in. So today's lesson is not just on LGBT, it's on a whole satanic movement, all right, to deceive the world, okay? And if we buy this LGBT issue, it has serious repercussions on family, on culture, on everything else, on health, on disease and everything else. It has, but it's bigger than that. This message is bigger than that. Get your theology right, whether it's on sexuality or anything else. I hope I've not added too much confusion, right, to a topic that is meant to confuse right from wrong, all right? And I hope that today you will go back, reflect a little bit on what was said, think through this thing. Don't attack people who have got tendencies. Pray for them. The only solution is show love, concern. The only final solution is the gospel. All right. Now, of course, that's being attacked as conversion. Therapy is wrong. We call it reparation, trying to change homosexuals. No, I don't change any homosexuals. You can't. I can only pray you get the gospel. I can only preach the gospel. Pray you trust the Lord, and the Lord will give you the victory. God bless you.